every young man can make $1 million in the next year by just following these principles and really understanding what it takes to go from 0 to $1 million in your business. So I went to college, and when I was in school, you take a lot of courses on just a lot of bullshit that at the end of the day is not getting you to where you want to go in business. Me, myself, I was in the School of Engineering, so I took a lot of math classes, I took a lot of science classes, everything from product development to how machines work. And those courses really didn't get me towards where I needed to go in terms of starting a business. And at that time, I was actually starting a prototyping business. And those businesses, as much as they taught me about engineering, they didn't get me to where I wanted to go in business and in life. And if we even take a step back from that, even if I was in the School of Entrepreneurship and taking entrepreneurship classes, which I did do for some electives because it was an interest at the time, those courses don't actually teach you real world skills on how to start a business from scratch and take it to doing $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month, and specifically online as well. So when I was in those classes, it talked a lot about how to buy a business or analyze the finances or, go raise funds and create a business plan. But as much as those things are great in principle, they don't actually relate to starting a business and getting out there, creating an offer and talking to individuals. So that is one of the biggest things I want to get across, that if you want to make $1 million, if you want to start a business that is making money in any industry, the first step that you need to take is going online and finding individuals in your industry or in your niche that are actually in the position that you want to get to, whether it's in a year or 2 years. And don't look at traditional school as the vehicle that's going to get you to where you want to go. So the next thing that I really want to get across to everybody in terms of a benefit and a belief is that hustle culture is a scam, and I'll break that down for you. So when I first got started, I fell into the trap that I needed to work just like absolutely all day, every day, 20 hours a day. And to be honest with you, it became a very unhealthy habit, and it's not sustainable by any means. And yes, a lot of this did come from the people that you see online. I was big into Gary Vee and Grant Cardone back in the day. Again, I've been doing this for 10 years, so those are some of the old heads that might not be as relevant nowadays. But they always preached, just absolutely work harder than everybody else and spend all your time working. And I fell into that trap. And as I look back on, the periods that I had a lot of business success and I didn't, the times that I actually had a lot of success in my business, I actually treated it like a 9-to-5 job. The only thing that I changed in the mindset that flipped for me was that I actually need to work smarter and not harder. Now, I know that's just a cliche term that's used a lot in business, but you need to really focus on, when I'm working, is it actually moving my business forward, or am I just doing like mindless stuff that doesn't actually matter? So I'll give you an example. When I first got started in business, I spent a lot of time actually designing funnels, building web pages, writing out email sequences, doing automations. And as much as those things are absolutely great to have in any business, they weren't revenue producing activities, and they weren't actually moving the needle in my business. And to be quite honest with you, I could have went on Fiverr, I could have went on Upwork, and literally just paid somebody $5 to $10 to do those things. When I went out and actually started doing revenue producing activities like cold calling, messaging people on LinkedIn, booking meetings, and actually making pitches. So the biggest thing that I do want to preach to everybody is that it's not about how much you work, it's about what you're doing when you are working. And at the end of the day too, we're all doing this to have freedom. We're all doing this to make a lot of money, have freedom, go out, spend money on our friends and family. And at the end of the day, if you're just locked in working 16 hours a day, you're gonna look like shit. You're never gonna actually see your friends or family, and all the work that you're doing is literally just gonna go to waste. Think about when you're actually working, is it a revenue producing activity, and is it getting me closer to making $1 million, or even just your first $10,000? Not, is it something that just feels like work? So really think about what you're doing when you are working and make those actions meaningful. So let's talk a second about how do I actually prioritize the work that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and what's classified as a revenue producing activity and what's just something that really doesn't matter. So when you're starting a business, as much as you need to know exactly what you're doing and what you're offering and what you're going to be fulfilling if it's a service-based business, or what you're going to be selling if it's a product-based business. But after that, all that really matters is that, number one, you are booking appointments to talk with people, to offer them your service, you're making pitches, and then you're sending out proposals, or you're pitching them and then sending out an invoice for them to actually pay you and join. And if what you're doing doesn't allow you, it's not enabling you to actually be spending time on those three things, then it most likely is not a revenue producing activity. So I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I joined a CEO organization, which was a collegiate entrepreneurship organization. Now, all of their meetings and everything that they ever taught was building a business plan, designing your website, putting together a PDF, which I think is all great, and you need to have a vision on where you want to take your business. But again, those aren't revenue producing activities. Me spending 6 months building out a business plan is not going to get me making money as fast as possible, because once I have money coming in the door, I can figure out everything else. Oh, this client didn't like our onboarding process. Okay, let me set up some automations, or better yet, let me pay somebody that can just set those things up for me. Especially if you're starting out, really think about, is the work that I'm doing allowing me to, number one, perfect my offer, number two, book more appointments, and number three, allowing me to pitch more people and collect more money. If what you're working on is not those three things, then again, it's most likely not a revenue producing activity. And I'll give you a little tip that I like to do every single day. So when I wake up, I get started with my day. I usually do something in the morning, but the next 4 hours of my day are what I like to call deep work. And that is me not focusing on anything. I'm not replying to emails. I'm not messaging anybody in Facebook groups. I'm not looking at anything in my business. No, texting back and forth with anybody. I'm not addressing any messages. I'm not looking at new software. I'm not watching videos. I'm not doing training. I am literally focusing on revenue producing activities, which is me contacting people, booking more appointments, getting on sales meetings, and talking to people, sending out invoices, because at the end of the day, I can figure out everything. If a client pays my $2,000 invoice and they come into my business, I can scramble and I can figure out what I'm going to do for fulfillment. I can get them a CRM account set up. And to be honest with you, if you ever struggled, with actually doing consistent work on a day-to-day basis, when you have somebody that's just paid you and now it's your turn to fulfill the work, it's forcing you to do that work. So in these deep work sessions, again, really focus on doing the things that actually matter. I listed out all these examples of revenue producing activities, and then everything else can come after you actually have that money in the door. So next, let's talk about a non-negotiable for me in my day-to-day. And I touched on it a little bit before, but that's how I start my morning. So everybody out there preaches different things in their morning. Some people like to wake up, meditate, journal. For me, I like to get moving and I like to do something hard. So I am a big believer in waking up. And yes, I do scroll on my phone sometimes for 20 or 30 minutes. It's just something that helps me wake up. Everybody's a little bit different. You could try to go cold turkey, but I think everybody has their vices. And sometimes it's not about what can I just, completely get rid of, especially if it gets your mind right. Sometimes it's just about adapting to, yes, I do something, maybe it's a bad habit, I'm just gonna do it a little bit less, and I'm gonna add in this other good habit. So again, my day-to-day is by no means perfect. What I like to do is actually get up after I'm scrolling, I drink a Monster in the morning, I drink some coffee, I get up and I actually do cardio, and I do a hard cardio. So it's not something that I'm just, walking at a leisure pace. Maybe cardio is not your thing, but you could go to the gym and you could lift weights. You could go do CrossFit. You could go, run. Whatever you like to do, I recommend doing something that is hard in the morning. And again, it doesn't have to be absolutely exhausting, because at the end of the day, that is going to impact how you work and the energy that you have throughout the day. But do something for 15, 20, 30 minutes that's relatively hard, because for me, running 3 miles in the morning, that's hard. But going out, doing, again, back in the day, I don't do it anymore. I'm able to pay people to do the cold calls and the emails and the texting for me. But back in the day, it was hard for me to get up and run 3 miles. But that made cold calling, 15 businesses that I was going to cold call that morning, super easy, because, what's sitting in my chair and making a couple calls? That's super easy. Going out and running 3 miles is hard. Going and doing a 30-minute bike session at a zone 2 pace and your quads are on fire, that's hard. So I always like to start my morning with something that is physically hard, because it sets the tone for the rest of the day, where I get to sit in front of my computer, I get to try to make money online. That's easy, that's fun, right? That's the fun stuff. The hard part is waking up and doing something, that's actually physically hard on your body. When we talk about things that aren't super business related, like my morning routine and doing cardio in the morning, is definitely doing things that actually impact the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So my next belief is diet and what you're actually consuming from a nutrition standpoint every single day. You need to find a diet or nutrition schedule or, specific eating habits and patterns that's going to work for you, because at the end of the day, we're talking about maximizing how you're working during the day, what's going to get you lasered in, just absolutely focused in on what you're doing. It's going to give you the energy to actually, do what you need to do, because after that, everything else is going to fall into place. And those things are absolutely going to impact how you're working. Even now, when I go out for a few drinks, that next morning, I am not lasered in by any means, and I am not working efficiently. So eating a bunch of junk food, just completely eating, absolutely trash diet, and I feel like I don't have to walk through that, but just the typical American diet as it's kind of been labeled, where it's just junk food, treats, desserts, processed food, you're eating out a lot. Those things, high carb, high fat, again, sodium's not the enemy, so I don't want to label specific things, but just very highly processed foods are going to give you this, you're just not going to be lasered in, and you're going to feel like super lightheaded and just all over the place. It's almost like this ADHD that people talk about that everybody has nowadays. It's most likely not a genetic thing that you have. It's you having a bad diet that's not allowing you to focus in. And I'm sure everybody can relate to this. You went out, you ate a bunch of shit food, you came back, you continue to eat a bunch of shit food, and the next morning, you just have like this foggy brain where you're not able to focus. You just feel all over the place. You start to, forget what you're doing. And again, you feel you have like these ADHD symptoms. So I'm not one of those individuals that just completely shits on modern day medicine. If you legitimately have ADHD or you need something to actually function, absolutely, take what you need. But I will say changing up your fitness and changing up your nutrition most likely is going to get you where you want to go. But sometimes you still want to add these different tools to your tool belt. That is that extra 20% that, again, is going to be getting you working better and just more lasered in. And again, if you're producing 20% extra on a day-to-day basis, again, over the whole week, that's an extra day of output that you got. Over a month, that's an extra 4 days. That's almost a whole week of extra output by focusing on that extra 20% of you just performing better. So a couple of those things that I really like to consume and I like to have as tools in my tool belt are, first off, caffeine. Now, I know some people go a little bit more extreme. I'm not a nicotine guy, but stimulants in general, specifically for me, caffeine is something that I definitely utilize to help me just get more lasered in. And what's super nice with caffeine, some people are hyper responders and they get a little bit jittery, but for me, it does help my mental and it allows me to focus in on what I'm doing. So I talked a little bit about in the morning, I definitely always have some kind of a Monster or a coffee that, again, it just sets my mind right, where, again, usually my body, because I'm dialed in on my fitness, I'm dialed in on my nutrition, my body is usually pretty much geared and ready to go. Sometimes my mental is not. Sometimes I didn't sleep the best, and we'll get into sleep, But, again, it just happens. I only slept 4 hours. I only slept 5 hours. Utilizing caffeine as that tool to help me get up to a certain percentage of output is going to, again, allow me on a day-to-day basis stack wins and perform at a higher efficiency and just an overall output than I would be without it. So I'm a big proponent of having tools in your tool belt to help you get more work out of the time that you're putting in. Again, when you are working, again, that 8 hours or 10 hours a day, instead of trying to just completely, work every single hour of the day, but it's not actually impactful, like I mentioned. So big proponent of caffeine. It is, again, something that I do utilize, and I am usually drinking throughout the day. Again, there's caffeine pills that you can take. Be careful, like this isn't something that you definitely just want to be slamming caffeine, or again, I know some people preach nicotine. It's not something that you want to abuse. It's something that you, again, want to use as a tool in your tool belt. My next tool in my tool belt is my water machine. So this is a reverse osmosis 4-stage water filter that allows me to be consuming the highest quality water that I can. 80% of your body is made up of water. If I was consuming tap water, I'm consuming fluoride, I'm consuming birth control, it's making the frogs gay. Why would I want to consume this at all, especially when it is 80% of my body? It is going to impact everything in your day-to-day life, especially your work. And that is why it's super important to be controlling what you're putting in your body. A big piece of that is going to be water. So make sure that you're controlling what you're putting in your body and drinking the highest quality water possible. We talked about producing the highest quality work you can when you're working. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is by having different things in your toolbox that you can use on a day-to-day basis when something breaks. So I'll give you some examples for me. I use sleep medication. It's called melatonin. It's more of a natural supplement. I shouldn't even call it a medication. But that allows me that if there's a night where I only get 4 to 5 hours of sleep, I need to make sure that the next night I get at least 7 to 9, because that's going to allow me to be as efficient and as productive as possible that next day. Because I know, again, I've been doing this for so long, I know if I have 2 bad nights of sleep in a row, that is going to stack on top of each other. And that consistently is going to lead me to be less productive and less efficient when I'm working. So again, for me, melatonin, that's a big one. Another one for me is natural nootropics and different medications that help me laser in and focus. So that could be ADHD medication. I use a peptide called Simax. It's a nootropic that allows me to actually focus when I need to. Again, these aren't things that I'm just using on a day-to-day basis, but they're tools in my tool belt that if there's an afternoon where I'm just, I had a crazy workout in the middle of the day and I'm just slugging it and I can't just dial in and I can't focus, or I have a podcast and I just feel like absolute crap, these are things that I can use to help me produce high quality work and to get me back up to the level that I need to be performing at when I'm working. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some other external beliefs and habits that you need to fall into away from just what you're putting in your body, things like nutrition and just different tools under your tool belt. But let's actually talk about the habits and the beliefs you need to have when you are working. And a big one for me, for anybody starting an online business, because this is what I did when I got started, is working for free and the principle of reciprocation. I can't tell you how many people nowadays that I even talk to if we're doing one-on-one coaching, or if I'm just, having a general conversation because somebody's asking for advice. They come to me and they say something along the lines of, hey, I'm just getting started. How much should I charge for, Facebook advertising? I'm thinking about charging $3,000 a month on a 3-month contract, so they'll pay me $9,000 up front. Do you think that's enough? Do you think that's good? Should I add something else in there? And I'm absolutely just like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? That is absolutely crazy to think that you're worth $9,000 over 3 months and you're just starting and you've never ran a Facebook ad. When I got started, the first thing that I did in my marketing career, and you could bash me for it, you could say, hey, this is why, it took me so long to have success. But at the end of the day, I've taken 8 different businesses to 7 and 8 figure run rates because in the beginning I worked for free. I didn't charge anybody. I went out to businesses and said, hey, you're not running Facebook ads, or hey, your social media looks like shit. Can I do that for you? Can I help you out? Could we run some Facebook ads? Could we try this out? And then from there, I was able to transition and actually get clients by building my skills. I also got testimonials from this too. So I had, 5 to 10 video testimonials of people that I did free work for, because I went out there and I was like, hey, I'm just going to do all this stuff for you. I'm not going to charge you anything. I'm going to get them results. They give me a testimonial, and then that unlocks the ability for me to actually go and get clients and to charge people, more and more and more money. But when you're just starting out, and whether you're a fitness coach and you want to train people to get in better shape, but you look like shit and you've never trained anybody, how are you going to justify being a fitness coach? Again, same thing in business. If you want to go out there and you want to sell marketing, how the fuck are you going to sell marketing if you've never ran a Facebook ad and you don't know the first thing about marketing? So you need to go out there. And again, we talked about revenue producing activities. Maybe you just talk about, what's going to get me to those revenue producing activities. So go out there and talk to businesses, offer them free audits. I did free audits. That's another thing that I did for the longest time. I had a full 2-page audit that I would go through and say, are they active on this platform? Are they active on Facebook? Are they active on Instagram? And I would go through and audit, what are they doing? Are they running Facebook ads? Does their website need an update? I would audit all of these businesses, and then I would give it to them, and then I would transition that into free work. And then from the free work, you get a testimonial, and that's going to unlock you to be able to actually go out and charge people for your services. Now, that's just marketing as an example. If you're in a different line of businesses, let's say you do operations and you do operations consulting, and that's the service that you do for businesses, go out there, go through their website contact form, try to contact support and see how that works, and then do an audit of their business. Number one, by doing these audits and just looking and going and doing free work, you're going to learn a lot about the industry that you want to work in. You're also going to learn a lot about the pain points and where businesses are at or where they're not at, that when you start and you are having those conversations to actually sell people and bring on your first client, you're going to look like an expert because, hey, I've went out there, and for me, I went out there and I had done 20, 30, 40 audits. I knew exactly what businesses were usually doing and what they weren't doing, and that allowed me to be an expert on those specific sales calls. And by looking like an expert and knowing what I'm actually talking about, and I had done some of the free work, so I knew exactly what to do and what things should look like, what performed and what didn't, I became this expert consultant on these sales calls. And again, when somebody actually feels like you know what you're doing, they trust you, and that's what's going to lead you to actually be getting more paying clients. So again, in the beginning, the biggest belief that I want to instill in anybody, if you don't have any skills, if you're just starting out, go out there and just get some free work under your belt. Go out there and do some Facebook ads for people. Go do some video editing. Go do some marketing, some social media posting. If you want to do drone photography, go out there and build your portfolio of these projects and of these different things that you've done, and then leverage those to get new clients, because that is going to get you a lot farther, a lot faster than just trying to sell people straight up from the jump when you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about, and somebody made you a templated out sales presentation and is expecting you to just start selling clients. So I am a big proponent of charging what you're worth. And as I mentioned before, when you're just getting started, you're not worth $2,000 a month. Unless you're doing a substantial amount of work for that business, you are not worth $2,000 a month. And you don't want a $2,000 a month client doing that much work, because at that point you're just a part-time employee. So really look at, what am I worth and what can I charge a client to actually do the work that I want to do for them. So I'll give you an example. When I got started, we started off charging real estate agents $500 a month to do their marketing and advertising. Our fulfillment on that, again, I had a business partner, so he was selling, I was actually doing the advertising and the marketing, was maybe an hour of onboarding and then 30 to 40 minutes of actual fulfillment on the back end of that. But here's the thing, we were just starting out. We had a couple little projects that we had done before. We had a couple testimonials, everything that I had done before that really was just for golf courses. So now I had transitioned into real estate. So again, we were just starting out. We didn't have that whole portfolio of testimonials, case studies, results, everything like that for us to go in there and charge $2,000 a month, which is what we eventually worked our way up to. We couldn't justify that. We had a shitty little website, and it was just us two. Again, had a little bit of experience, had a little bit of a case study and a testimonial, but that was it. So for us, we went out there, we started charging people $500 a month, and then over time we increased our prices as we got more experienced, as we were able to actually build our portfolio of results. We can get a little bit cockier and we can end up charging more. And that's also going to help your reputation too, because if you come in there and let's just say you fucking blow their dick off and you end up signing on somebody for $3,000 a month, that is the best way to just shoot your fucking reputation in the foot, because you're going on there, you're trying to charge this person all this money, you probably don't get them great results, you have a fucking whack onboarding process, and then now that person is more likely to leave a bad review or just not recommend anybody to you, not refer anybody, and now you're stuck with an unhappy client that's a pain in the ass, that's probably going to do more harm to your mental than good. It's just not, there are just absolutely no positives to when you're starting out to charge just an absolute shit ton of money and overpricing the work that you're doing. The other thing that you really need to think about, especially nowadays too, is what is my competition charging? Because, $3,000 a month might be super cheap if in your industry people are charging $20,000. So that is also something that you need to be super conscious of, is what's my competition doing, what's my competition charging, and then start out at a fraction of that. Bring on some clients, get comfortable with that process, improve your onboarding, improve your automations. Again, do all of those non-revenue producing activities that, as much as they're not bringing the clients on board, they're keeping clients, they're helping with retention, they're helping you get more referrals because you have this systemized onboarding process. You're able to bring more clients on and then start raising your prices and just keep raising them. But again, don't be an asshole. Don't start off just charging absolutely thousands of dollars a month, locking people up for 12-month contracts, because again, you're most likely never going to sign people up if they know anything about business. You might get lucky, but you're just going to blow those opportunities that you have. So start off, again, charge appropriately, take into effect, look at, just normal businesses and how they operate. Charge a little bit less, because that's what a normal business person is going to do. Build your portfolio, play the long game, because again, it's going to be an exponential curve of you growing your business by playing the long game instead of you just flatlining and potentially not getting anywhere because you're trying to play and just get rich fast, and you're trying to play this game that all these online entrepreneurs and high ticket gurus and all these people teach. It's just not worth it. I'm a testament to that. Again, I've had more success than most of these gurus and individuals that are selling you these high ticket programs of starting a business, just charging all this money. And I've had more success than them because I actually played the long game, and I was able to hone my craft, build up a good reputation, and then leverage that into having more consistent and bigger businesses as we grow. And I'll give you a case study. We started a marketing agency literally just a month ago, and in the last 30 days, again, this is completely from scratch, no personal brand, no coaching product. This is a marketing agency. In the last 30 days, it did $110,000. And the only reason we've been able to do that was because I played the long game. Me and my partners know exactly how to start these businesses, and we would never have been in the position that we are now to be able to do something like that without all of our skills and our beliefs and our habits over the last 5 to 10 years to allow us to be just these efficient machines that are able to just pump out companies. So these are my 7 commandments that I use on a day-to-day basis to perform at my highest capability, and that I've used to grow 8 businesses to 7 and 8 figure run rates. But if you want to know what business model that we personally use to take these businesses to 7 and 8 figures, watch my other video. I'll have it down in the description and popped up on the screen, and learn the exact ins and outs of the business model that we use to consistently take businesses to 7 and 8 figure run rates.